Daddy, what are you doing?
We're recording a podcast.
Who's listening?
Islander fans are listening.
Where are they?
Well, they're right here.
Welcome to the Isles Faithful Podcast with your host, Michael Sherline.
Hello, and welcome back to the Isles Faithful Podcast. This is episode 14. Today is Friday, November 16th, and I'm your host, Michael Sherline, as always. This week, we catch up with Wayne Caffarella of Kings Coast Coffee. He's also a huge New York Islanders fan. He has given coffee to some players on the team. Brendan Burke also tweeted about it the other day. He's a local guy, grew up on Long Island. He was a chef, started his own business. Just really good stuff from him. We reached out to each other, and his love for the Islanders and small batch coffee kind of just sparked a really good conversation. And you'll see we go into a whole bunch of different things: the season, last season, history, and even some beer league, because we have a connection there as well. We're going to quickly go into some of the things over the last 2 days since we recorded. Obviously, a big win over the New York Rangers last night. We had Steven Giunta in the lineup for the injured Casey Cizikas. Andrew Ladd also out of the lineup indefinitely with some sort of lower body injury. Also Matt Martin on injury reserve, retroactive of early November. So we got a couple of guys, in and out. Michael Dal-Cole eventually looks like he'll get his shot at some point this weekend or, in the next few games. I know we play the Rangers again, I think Tuesday. So some exciting stuff right now, which is funny because we talked about who would potentially be the first call-up with an injured player later on in this episode. Also, we dealt with that with some Twitter questions, so it's pretty interesting. So check it out. Again, we have Wayne Caffarella of Kings Coast Coffee, and we're going to go into a whole bunch of different things here, which is pretty cool. And without forgetting to mention a huge night from Anthony Bolivier, which we also talk about later on in this episode. He had a hat trick last night. Brock Nelson scored another goal. Who else did we have a goal here? Some Letty love with some assists, which I haven't really been able to do much of. Boychuk had a couple of big assists last night as well. Big games from the defensive guys here, especially the guys we've been giving some hard times to. So I know Nightvine will be happy to hear that we're giving her Bay some love. So it'll be funny to hear her reaction there. And now, without further ado, let's get right into it. Welcome back to the Isles Faithful Podcast. This is episode 14. Today is November 14th. And this week we are going to be joined by a very special guest in Wayne Caffarella of Kings Coast Coffee. Wayne, how's it going?
It's going well. Thank you for having me on.
How about that game last night, man?
That was a good one. It was a nice little slump buster.
Slump buster, and a couple of guys got off the snide, and some of the guys I've been hammering looked pretty good here moving forward. So
yeah. What was that? Clutterbuck's first goal in the last year and a half? Was that?
Something like that. Yeah.
It's kind of like my beer league career, but whatever.
You know what? Some of these guys, they talk about what we do in beer league, and they eventually wind up doing that themselves. I talked about that with Mark Parrish a couple of episodes ago. So
yeah, all roads lead to men's league.
It does.
Yep.
Now, I've been hammering on Nick Leddy, and Nightvine was going to kill me because I've been attacking her boy Boychuk here the last couple of games, but he looked really good last night. Leddy looked really good.
Yeah.
Pulak, as I can never say his name, looked really good last night. So, we'll go right into, why you're here with us too. And, you're obviously a chef, and you roast coffee now.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk a little bit about that? And before we even do that, you're obviously an Islanders fan. So let's
Big time
just
Islanders fan.
let's just jump right into that because that's a big part of what we do around here. So
Yep.
how did you become an Islander fan? You know, you live on the island, obviously.
Live
right?
on the island. Yep. Grew up in Patchogue. Growing up, I had two neighbors, one on the left, one on the right. One was a Rangers fan, one was a Devils fan. And when I was like around 8 or 9, we started playing street hockey, and it was one of those things where, they're like, "Oh, who's your favorite team?" And I'm like, I don't really watch hockey that much. And they're like, "Well, we like the Rangers and we like the Devils, so you got to like the Islanders." I was like, "Oh, okay." And that's kind of how it happened. My dad, not a really big hockey fan. He was a basketball and baseball guy, Yankees and Knicks growing up. And I remember coming in and be like, "Hey, Dad, I think I like hockey." And he's like, "I don't know anything about hockey." So we wound up, I'll never forget, it was, I think it was the 92 season. I got tickets for I think it was my 9th birthday. And we went to see Islanders versus Devils, and we brought my neighbor. And I was hooked from day one, walking into the Coliseum back then. And I'll never forget, it was like a chilly, fall night. And I had my teeth were chattering because I was so excited and the adrenaline rush from going to a game. And yeah, that was it. From day one of my first hockey experience, going to see a game live, I was absolutely hooked. And been, faithfully following this team ever since, through the ups and the downs. But yeah, so that kind of builds into my whole career thing. And like I said, I'm from Long Island, born and raised. I was a chef professionally up until about last year, when I turned a side hobby of mine of coffee roasting into a full-time business. And luckily I partnered up with a couple friends, and we started a company, and we're basically doing our business model is roast to order coffee, where you put your order in online, we roast it, we ship it out, and you're getting fresh roasted coffee delivered to your door. So it's pretty wild.
And that's pretty cool. I had seen you hook up with Brendan Burke the other day on Twitter, and
Yeah.
I had just made a quick joke of, I was kind of jealous of his small batch because I was pondering my life choices in Folgers, and there's nothing wrong with Folgers, it's a commercial company, so
exactly. They've been around for a certain amount of years, so obviously they're doing something, and that's kind of where my whole my coffee journey started, was looking for something a little bit more than just the 7-Eleven or Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks or anything like that. I just kind of wanted a little bit better coffee. And I had a friend of mine who owns a coffee shop up in Syracuse, New York, and I was visiting, and his stuff was just always so great. Every time I had a cup of coffee, and I was like, "Why is your coffee so good?" And he's like, I roast it fresh, so you're getting fresh roasted coffee, every time you come into my shop." I'm like, "Wow, that actually makes a lot of sense." And that's where my coffee voyage kind of started, and I started roasting at home and playing around, and it ties into the whole Brendan Burke thing. So obviously I'm an Islanders fan. I follow a lot of these people on Twitter. I've actually had pretty good interaction with a lot of the people in the Islanders organization. Just had Butch Goring, respond to a couple tweets recently, and Brendan Burke, he tweeted when they had the afternoon game in Philly, posted up a picture of a cup of coffee in his laptop, and he said, essentials for 1:00 start. So I just, I chimed in. I said, "Hey, you should check out Kings Coast. We'd love to send you some." And he responded back. It was, "It's got to be better than the crap I had at the hotel." And that's kind of where it was like. And then a week or two later, he actually DM'd us on Twitter, and he said, "Hey, I saw you reached out. I'd love to check out your coffee." So I was like, "Yeah, you know what? I'll send you some samples." So we sent him over some coffee, and he posted it on Twitter, and that's kind of been, for us, our success is being extremely interactive on social media and very accessible, and kind of showing what we're doing on Twitter. We've built a pretty good Twitter following. We have like about 20,000 people who follow us on Twitter. Two of my partners, they stream on Twitch TV, and if anybody's not sure what that is, it's like they broadcast themselves playing video games for a living, and people tune in by the thousands to watch, and it's one of the top entertainment outlets that's out there right now. It's pretty wild. So for us, that's been our market and our demographic, and then for me personally, I'm a huge hockey fan and sports fan, so I've been trying to reach out into that demographic and just kind of contact and tap anybody I can and say, hey, check out our product. And we've been having rave reviews. People try it and they think, oh, it's coffee. How good could it be? And then they get it and they're like, oh wow, this is actually really good. So it's been a wild ride.
And that's a good thing because hockey and caffeine, especially coffee, go hand in hand. And right. You look back through history and historical photos in the locker room and you see the players in the locker room smoking a cigarette, reading the paper, and drinking a cup of coffee. So, I mean, that's like synonymous with hockey to an extent. So it's great that you're leveraging, fans and definitely, utilizing the people available to you to spread the word out. And that's a big reason why I wanted to have you on. We spoke a little bit and, coincidentally, of course, because it's Long Island and we both play hockey, we know the same people.
A lot of the same people, yep.
And it's a small world. And I didn't know you prior to this, but, we even ran into each other last winter. So
yeah.
But, I understand that some of the Islanders players have even sampled some of your coffee. So why don't we go into that?
Yeah, we have a friend of mine. They own a sunglass company on Long Island. I don't know if you want me plugging other companies or
go for it, man. We're all about entrepreneurship around here. So.
Tomahawk Shades. They're a local company. They're kind of doing what we are doing, but in the sunglass market. And they figured, hey, we're Long Islanders and people wear sunglasses on Long Island pretty much all year round. So they've been doing that. They're killing it. They've got a bunch of different, they did Matt Martin and Scott Mayfield. They did a whole bunch of sunglasses for them for the Matt Martin Foundation. And so I was talking to them. They're actually huge fans of my partners for my coffee company. And then they were mentioning, oh yeah, we have some contacts with the Islanders. So I said, hey, if you want to trade, I'll give you guys contact to my guys and you put me in touch with some Islanders. I would love to get some coffee in the players' hands. Is for me personally, like, I want to kind of plant our flag on Long Island and be the coffee source to go to pretty much for everybody. My lofty goal is to be in the Belmont building when they break ground on there. I would love to have a coffee booth there. I know they're working on some kind of like they want to build like a community center with shops and stuff like that. I would love to have a coffee store there. And, just the official coffee partner of the New York Islanders just sounds like a dream come true for me. So,
have you been in contact with anybody from the team, like in PR or anything else, like Kimber Auerbach or anybody?
No, I'm gonna need. That's kind of the next step is to get into the PR and contact and at least get our product in their hands, because what we've been doing is I feel like the product speaks for itself. And we have really good packaging, really good design, and it's the complete package. So what we usually like to do is just try to get somebody's information. We say, hey, we're going to send you some product and let me know what you think. And a lot of our business deals have gone very well just from, putting product in people's hands. So that's the next step is getting hooked up in there and trying to actually make this dream come true.
All right, and if you're just joining us or if you've been skipping around, I'm talking to Wayne from Kings Coast Coffee, right here on Long Island. Big Islander fan, so we're going to be kind of going back and forth into some of his business stuff and to some hockey.
Yeah.
So, into the hockey here.
Yeah,
over the summer with all the drama and everybody that I've brought on, and I don't really like to bring up JT leaving, but
Yeah.
obviously it's a big thing, and it's going to be.
Yeah, how many times can we talk about it?
But it's still it's one of those things you know. I hate talking about it, but you kind of have to. It's one of the catch-22 things.
Right. Yep.
What do you feel about all the moves that the Islanders have made, and some of the stuff that was maybe looked down upon, but seems to be working out, and Filppula and Komarov and even Matt Martin coming back.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I've always been wanting the franchise to actually be considered a legitimate organization, and obviously we've gone through our rough patches. And it's been hard to watch as a fan. And then I'll never forget, when they drafted Tavares, I was like, oh my God, we're actually turning a page. This is going to be it. And, I got to say, I was a big fan of Tavares when he was here. I loved it. I was at Game 6 when he won the double overtime in the playoffs. And he's actually, some of my highest moments of being an Islanders fan were because of him. And, I'm grateful for everything that he gave us, but how it kind of went down is really where, I felt, crushed. I remember, following it, and I'm like, he's gonna sign. I'm like, he's just doing this to, set the price for the open market. He's doing the right thing for the players union. And I'm like, don't worry, I have my faith. Like, he said he wants to be here. And then just, at the last minute kind of pulled the rug out from underneath all of us and wound up going to Toronto. And to me, my biggest problem with it wasn't, the fact that he did that, because I could completely understand that. If I was playing for another franchise and I was, had the opportunity to play for the Islanders, I would probably even take less money to do it, just to make that dream come true. So I understand that. It's just kind of how the whole thing went down. That's what left the sour taste in my mouth. But it was almost like it was too good to be true. We got Lou Lamoriello, and I was like, oh my God, we actually have a legitimate general manager who's going to make some changes and some moves. And then we signed the Stanley Cup winning coach, Barry Trotz, who is arguably has to be the best coach I've ever seen in my lifetime since Al Arbor, and I hardly remember him because I was such a young fan when he was the coach. So I'm trying to think of Laviolette maybe, but he was such a young coach at the time. But we haven't had a coach like this in my entire fandom. And then it was like, the last piece of the puzzle. I was like, all right, well, Tavares has to re-sign now. And then, it is what it is. We move on. And
in true Islander fashion.
In true Islander fashion, you're either with us or you're against us. And, it's like, it was almost like it was too good to be true. And, I didn't want to get my hopes up, but at the same time, I thought it was going to happen. And you know what? We move on, like you said.
And I think we're better off at this point. Enough time has passed, and you look at the conundrum that Toronto has gotten themselves in with the salary cap, and you got Willie Nylander now holding out. Yeah. And who knows if he's even going to be signed before the December deadline. He could go the way of Le'Veon Bell, and not even sign for the whole year. And that's another thing. You have these professional athletes who their careers are limited, and they're going to sit out for an entire year of their career over a contract. Yeah. I get that it's a business, and I've always understood that about the whole Tavares decision. It's a business, at the end of the day, it's a business.
Yep.
But you're going to lose out on a whole entire year of your life playing that you're not going to get back.
Yeah, the whole Nylander thing's a little it's precarious. I can't imagine being him as a player, not playing, and then holding out and going, there's a good chance other teams might, look at that and go, we're with the as far as like general managers go, I feel like there's like this fraternity of general managers where they all don't want to do it. Everybody's probably thinking, okay, let's offer sheet this kid. But nobody's allowed to do it because they don't want to step on anybody else's toes because they don't want it to come back and haunt them. But I'm sitting there, if I'm a general manager and that guy is still unsigned, I'm like, is it worth, what is that? I think it would be 3 or 4 first round picks over the next couple of years. It's like, and then you got to give him a deal that Toronto. It's like, I don't know. That's an interesting situation.
And even further to that, you're really gonna look for teams to trade from because like you said, nobody's gonna offer sheet anybody unless
Right.
Lou is gonna come out and be all like spurned and say, you know what, Kyle, you screwed me, I'm gonna screw you now too.
Yeah.
But I could see a team trading a couple of assets for him, providing he signs a contract extension because he's gonna be a restricted free agent. And it's a matter of finding the correct deal, But let's not bore our fans with Toronto talk because we've kind of gone a little too far there.
Hammered that to death.
even though it's current events and is what it is.
Yeah.
So what about Brock Nelson, man? Brock got through October, continuing into November. What's going on here?
I had a feeling, and what I said about Brock is I felt like he was he needed coaching. I feel like he needed to be in a structured system. And when they signed Barry Trotz, I said, there's one person that I'm really curious to see this year, and it's going to be Brock Nelson and how he responds to an actual coach who's going to help his game and step his game up. And I feel like he's come a long way. I was watching, videos from the beauty league, the beer league that they do out in Minnesota, and I'm watching him play. I'm like, this guy, he's got the scoring touch. I feel like, I don't know if it was he never really got the opportunity to play in that kind of role. I feel like he was kind of always buried on the third line with like the missing links and the guys who got thrown on that line together. I feel like he's kind of excelling in a role where he's given an opportunity and now he can kind of step it up. And he's looked huge for us so far this year.
I spoke to Mark Parrish about the Beauty League when I had him on, and he said that Lee and Brock and Letty looked amazing. All three of the Minnesota boys looked amazing. Yeah. And he said he always forgets how big Brock Nelson is, how big of a guy, how strong he is. Yeah. And, I think it's funny. I don't know if I was part of the blog box when the Islanders had the blog box. So like I've attended a bunch of, entry drafts. I met players on their draft day, Brock being one of them. And I post a picture from time to time of a very young, very thin Brock Nelson on the phone with Kyle Oposo being congratulated on being drafted by the Islanders. And I look back at that picture and I see the Brock now and see how strong he is and how much of a man he has turned into. And he is playing this year the way that I've wanted him to play
since day one. Yep.
He's I wouldn't say a power forward because his skating isn't really where it needs to be to and you could say the same thing about Lee even. That, they're just strong-bodied players, so they're going to barrel through. And, Brock, his skating might be a little more finesse than, Anders, but you look at last night, the way he got in past the defense, got the puck down low, chipped it out front to Eberle. That was like the absolute perfect play that you want to see from Brock Nelson every week.
Yeah.
And he did it twice last night. They only scored on one. But he was down. He got down low on the forecheck a couple of times last night, and he was giving Vancouver fits the whole entire game.
Yeah, there was a big game from him, and like you said, he's a big kid. I think was he 6'3", and he just I feel like it's kind of finally all clicking for him, and I don't know if you can single-handedly accredit that to the coaching staff and the structure that they're running, but that was. For me, going into the season, everybody had question marks over Brock Nelson, and I said I really want to see him under a new coaching regime. And so far so good, man. I can't complain.
Yeah, he's looked good. And then you got Josh Bailey, the elite winger, who made his line mate in John Tavares.
Yes, yeah, John Tavares was a product of Josh Bailey.
Josh Bailey and Anders Lee.
Yep.
But
Bailey, he's been an absolute animal ever since he had a kid. There's on Reddit, that's like the joke is he's got the dad strength now, but he's been absolutely out of his mind. And I feel like he's finally found his role. He knows, hey, I'm a vet on this team, and I'm gonna step up. And he's firing the puck. And man, that guy's got a shot. When he lets that thing go, it's impressive.
Barzil found him. He had that semi breakaway where he wound up turning up in like the slot. He did a
Yep.
little spinorama to find Bailey, and Bailey ripped one off a one-timer.
Yep.
And that is the type of shot, and again, I've seen him shoot this way before, but I think that's where, you want to see Trotz put Bailey in that Ovechkin slot on the opposite side, because obviously
Yep.
one's a lefty and one's a righty.
Yep.
So you put him on the power play, you give him the opportunity to shoot, and that's been my thing all along. Last episode, I ripped into the power play because they weren't shooting. They were passing all around, passing all around, passing all around. It was like they practiced the whole entire day of power play passing, but never taking a shot.
Never taking a shot. Yeah, I feel like that's been their issue for as far back as I can remember. I feel like they almost would try to force it too much. They're trying to make this perfect set play instead of just kind of like making a couple passes and then just ripping it on net. Because you got Lee parked right in front of the net, and they use Clutterbuck on the second unit right in front of the net. Like just make a couple moves and throw it on the net. You never know what's going to happen. And I feel like last night it was. Did they had one power play goal last night?
It was Clutterbucks, on the power play, and I was half asleep during that when my wife had to smack
that play specifically was actually like a beautiful set play. They a couple quick little passes, and they found the guy wide open in front of the net, and he tapped it in. It was so it just seemed like obviously there's new coaching, there's new systems, and hopefully they're making adjustments, and it's all going to start coming together. But from what I think they're playing beyond anyone's expectations going into the season, considering when you looked at the lineup, you're like, oh, I don't know about this one.
And it's a matter of the children of the corn too, and the goaltending. And I brought this up last episode. I don't think I have my notes anymore, but that the goalies are just playing out of their mind. They're towards the top of the league in save percentage and goals against, and it's great to see. And then you have Halak playing great.
I was going to bring that up,
in Boston as well. So I mean, if we would have wound up keeping Halak for another year, sign him to like a 1-year deal with these goaltending coaches and the way that the systems are, because I don't think it was really Halak's fault or even Grice's fault last year. There was such like a bad defensive system, and
I remember Doug Waite saying his system of defenses, he wanted the goaltenders to see more shots. He didn't want guys blocking lanes. He wanted the goalies to see more shots. Now, to me, that just sounds like a recipe for disaster. And we had the highest goals allowed in the last 12 years in the NHL. To me, obviously, the system was broken because look, you take also Grice. A credit to coaching. Obviously, we have the best goaltender coach in the league right now. But if you also look up in Boston what Halak's doing, his numbers are incredible right now. And to me, that just shows it wasn't the personnel, it was the system. And I think that's kind of going to be the theme for this year. It's not really the personnel, it's the actual structure and the system that make the team play better than they really should. I don't know. But yeah, his numbers, I'm trying to pull them up right now. I just picked him up in fantasy hockey because I have Antiranta and he's down, and I'm like, yeah, he's 6-1 with a 1.7 goals against average.
I got
like
hammered in fantasy last week. Now I won the for Blue Point because I know you play for Port Jeff. We talked about that the other day. So we're bitter rivals in
yes.
We play for different brewery teams, but we have a fantasy hockey league for the hockey team, and I have Leonard. I have now I'm gonna draw a blank because we're recording.
Now, you actually have to talk about it.
I have Leonard. I have Talbot, and I have Rask.
Nice.
So, Rask obviously was out, and he's not really been getting the time because Halak's been getting the time. And I was like, yeah, maybe I should just ride Halak and Rask until Rask, gets back into the groove here. But of course, somebody else in my league picked him up. So, but I got shellacked last week. I've never gotten shut out in a fantasy week.
Wow.
I've always done well in the time that we've been doing this. I actually won the whole thing last year.
Nice.
But I lost in all 13 categories last week.
Wow. That's brutal. Yeah, I gotta say, hopefully none of the Port Chef guys are listening, but I grew up drinking Blue Point, so that's.
Well, I mean, you grew up in Patchogue. So
Yep.
Now, do you still live in Patchogue? Because another little tidbit, I work for Pat Med Schools.
Oh, do you? I went to Pat Med. I do not live there anymore. I live up in Kings Park, actually.
All right, there you go. That's right. You did mention you lived up by Superior, so.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what got me back into hockey. I played roller hockey growing up all my life, and never really got to play ice hockey because it was always so expensive. And then I wound up moving upstate, and then when I moved back, I moved to Kings Park, and there was a rink right down the road. I'm like, I'm gonna just start playing ice hockey again, and that's kind of where it all happened. And as you know, you can't just play on one team. You got to play every possible second of the day. So.
My free time is limited, like I mentioned. So
yeah.
I got the one game a week, and sometimes it's hard to make the one game, and then I get my chops busted by the team. And
yep.
But I've been playing with those guys for so long that it just comes with the territory. We talk literally in an email chain every single day. We talk on fantasy. We have a Facebook page. It's like it's ridiculous. Like we are a brewery team with our own social media team is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, my wife makes fun of us all the time for it. She's like, "Do you guys ever not like talk to each other?" She's like, "You talk to these guys more than you talk to me." I'm like, well,
You know what? One of my favorite people to play against is on your team in Matt Jung.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good player. He's just like a solid like men's league guy, he's got the scoring touch. I don't understand. Like I was telling him the other day, like you watch him skate, and that kid's got big feet. He wears like a size 14 skate, which I don't understand. He's not super tall, but he's just like he kind of like what's the proper word? I guess moseys around, but like
he turns
like
it up
sways.
when he needs to.
Yeah, like he just kind of has like a groove to his skating. Like he goes side to side and just kind of like just moves around. It's actually pretty fun to watch. But yeah, he's got smarts, man. He finds holes, and I've been playing on a line with him, and it's just like it's fun to play with because it's like he'll find you. You get to the open ice and he'll find you, and if not, he's probably going to be putting it in the back of the net himself. But
you talk to him the next time you tell him that you know me, and he's going to say, "Oh, I hate taking face-offs against Mike because I own him."
Yeah, he's a good dude. Yeah, and I've known Dan O'Leary, the brewer for Port Chef. I've known him for years. I've been kind of like, I'm like, "Hey man, you got any open spots on that team?" And he's like, "They're a group that nobody ever leaves." So it was going into this fall season. He's like, "Actually, we have an opening if you want it." I'm like, "Yep." I'm like, "I just wanted the jersey."
Nice.
I was like that for me. That was the biggest thing. Was like I just wanted one of those jerseys because they're actually really nice. But yeah, now I'm playing on that team, and then the Kings Coast. We actually have two teams that play in the weeknight division, so it's fun.
Nice, yeah, and we'll talk to everyone about this Brewers Cup game that we started last year, right before you got on the team. But
yeah,
Blue Point and Port Jeff got together, and we decided we wanted to start a Brewers Cup because it's as much as it's like a rivalry, it's not really a rivalry because we all like the same things. We're all supporting our local breweries, and in Port Jeff's case, their own brewery. But because one of our brewers is on the team, even though he's part-time in Jimmy, we decided we wanted it, and the brewery gave us an okay to have a Brewers Cup. And the goal is to get some of the other breweries involved throughout the island, and eventually maybe raise money for charity and make a whole weekend tournament out of it. And it seems like it's getting the legs that it needs to, and we pushed it on social media, and as you saw, there was a whole crazy amount of people there, and both
Yeah, it
breweries
was
brought
actually a great
beer
time.
and food in the parking lot. Too bad it was like in the middle of the winter, but
Yeah.
so it's a good
Yep.
time, and as it gets closer, I'll definitely push it on Twitter. I'll push it here on the podcast and on my blog, and hopefully we get a little more traction.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm looking forward to that one. That's gonna be fun.
we'll get back into some Islanders stuff now here, and you saw Arthur Staple, if you subscribe to The Athletic, say we're past our 15 game kind of feel it out, see what the team is made of, and
Yeah.
the assessment is ending. You saw them shake up lines in practice this week and last night in the game, and I'm sure against the Rangers tomorrow, which we haven't even spoken about, by the way, the Ranger game tomorrow.
That's a big game tomorrow night.
Huge
Big game.
The Rangers have been playing fantastic. My dad is a Ranger fan, and my daughter and I FaceTimed him yesterday because we hadn't spoken to him in a week or so, and he was like, "My Rangers are playing good," and I was like,
Yeah.
They
They woke
look
up
pretty good.
recently. Yeah. But I mean, we still, I think, own them.
I hope so. We don't have Halak anymore, though. He owns
Yeah,
them.
that's true. He was the difference maker.
But what moves do you potentially see them making moving forward? Obviously Pagnotta today had said some stuff, especially following the trade with Pittsburgh and the Kings, that the Kings were potentially exploring different offers, and I had actually said something about this yesterday prior to them even talking about it on the fourth period, of some options there in Jake Muzzin and Tyler Toffoli and players of that ilk. So what are your thoughts? Who throughout the league do you think would be a fit, and who could you see going the other way?
Well, I feel like Toffoli's name has come up in the past in ties with the Islanders. I remember hearing that once or twice. I really honestly don't know. I don't know what the plan is. I don't know if I feel like obviously, 15 games in, you got a pretty decent sample size of what you have as a team. I feel like as long as this team stays healthy and sticks to the system, I don't really think they're going to be making too many crazy moves. I don't know. I would like to see them make a splash and possibly somehow either acquire, potential number one to be goaltender. We have, Sorokin in the pipeline, but is he ever going to leave Russia? We don't know. I really don't know. Are they going to make one of those kind of deadline deals? And I guess as we get closer, they'll probably figure out where they are in the standings. And you got to figure if they're pushing for a playoff spot, I don't think Lou is going to sit back on his hands and not make a move if he can improve the team.
And it's funny, I asked for a couple of Twitter questions today, and good friend of the show, Nightvine, was the only one who threw us some questions. Usually I get so many I can't get to them all, but this week, we'll get to her questions and we could both answer them.
Yeah.
The first question is, do you think a package of Leddy and Eberle gets it done for a player like Nylander? Now, I think it's like destiny, and I know Andy Graziano and Shane Blackburn of the Secondary Assist podcast, also good friends of the show. I made an appearance over on their show a couple weeks back. It's destiny that a player like Nylander joins the New York Islanders, because like you can't spell Islanders without Anders.
Yep.
You can't spell New York Islanders without Nylander.
Yeah. Yeah. There was another Nylander.
His father.
His father, right? And I remember back in the day being like, oh man, how cool would it be if he played for the Islanders? You see those names and you're like, oh man, that'd be kind of cool. I mean, do you think that gets it done? That's the question.
They definitely need defense, but at the same time, I think any move, if Leddy is involved in, needs to have some sort of defenseman coming back, whether it's a prospect or what. Because, obviously we have Taves in the wings ready to go, and
who's been lighting it up in the AHL.
Absolute fantastic hockey down there. And an aside is I still can't get over the fact that that the AHL has games in the morning, because like I was following along today on Twitter and I'm like, I can't believe the games start at like 10 or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. makes it even more fun to follow. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like they might, if they're gonna make a move, it's like, is Leddy the guy that a team like Toronto is gonna want as a defenseman? Do they want? I feel like he's that specific offensive minded defenseman. Are they gonna want to get like a shutdown guy? Because they already have Riley, who's been phenomenal.
Most offensive minded defenseman in the league, and he's on my fantasy team. Both of them, actually.
I got him too. Yeah, he's been great. It's like, is that what they're looking for if they are going to make a move, especially for somebody like Nylander? I don't know. I don't know. It's a potential package that I could see possibly working, but I don't know. I don't know.
I don't see them doing that. I think Leddy would be like a move you would have seen for a defenseman for a defenseman deal. Two different types of defensemen who maybe could benefit from a change of scenery.
Yeah, maybe a younger kid with a little bit more term, a lower cap hit kind of deal to a team that could use a defenseman, but they're kind of, I would say, closer to the bubble of cup potential. Who knows?
But at the same time, Arthur Staple put out an article this morning talking all about Leddy and how coaching staff is completely happy with him, and the fact that he's not scoring or contributing offensively isn't really a big deal because they want him to be a two-way guy. They want him to be someone who could take his skill to the next level the way they want Barzal to be a two-way guy to take his skill to the next level.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was 2 games ago, hearing Trotz talk about Leddy saying, obviously they're playing a more defensive-minded system and they want them to be the complete player, and that offense is like the last thing that they're worried about right now. And usually that's what comes last when, you switch to a new defensive-minded system. So it doesn't seem like he has – I feel like any scoring he has right now is from the fans because – we all want the best out of our team. I don't think he's, like you said, I don't think he's in the doghouse with the coaches. So I don't really see them trying to move him. That's just me personally.
I maybe would have prior to seeing that, and like I mentioned at the top of the show, I felt like he's been playing a whole lot better, and I've hammered him the last couple of episodes, and even last night I joke around every time Leddy misses the net, you got to take a shot. So I hate as a hockey player ripping a shot and missing the net, and I understand it's about angles and goaltenders kind of only give you
right
that little tiny area to shoot at, but put it on net. Look at Jake Virtanen last night. They took a shot, they passed it around, boom, rebound pops right to his stick, he puts it in.
Yep.
So that's what you want. Just get a little bit of movement, get the shot on net, make him give up a rebound, crash the net, get a filthy goal like that. You see it in men's league all the time. The guy who comes ripping up the wing, rips it on net, misses by about 10 feet, rings off the glass, and then you got a 3-on-1 going the other way because your defense pinched and overcommitted. It's like, just put it on the net. Look for a rebound and hope something kicks out. And it's exacerbated in the NHL because everybody is so fast.
So damn fast.
That they're just gone.
Yep.
Gone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, it's one of those things too. I feel like every team, every year, there's always one whipping boy. And I remember it being Bailey for the longest time. And then, before that was Jeff Tambellini and, Andy Hilbert. And, I feel like every team had their own, guy that got just beat on by the fans. It didn't matter what he did up until, a year or two ago. I feel like it was Bailey. Bailey was everybody's riding him. And then finally, I guess, he kind of clicked and his game has been completely elevated. But yeah, I just feel like, it's part of that thing is we know he can play better, it's kind of one of those things as far as Leddy goes.
All right, so I guess we don't agree, or I mean we agree on the fact that we don't see him being involved
I
in a
don't
deal
see
for
him get
Nylander.
moved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, she has another question.
Yeah.
If Ladd is out for a while, do you think one of the kids gets a call, or do they
Ugh.
put Bo back to the second line and hope he snaps out of it?
Uh,
Now you have all these guys playing fantastic down in Bridgeport. You
yep.
got even Michael Dow Cole is ripping it up too. So you got Dow Cole, you got Hosang who's playing phenomenal, you got Bellows is playing phenomenal. So
Yep.
at what point do you say, all right, well, obviously we have a couple of guys here that we can interchange, and Kuhnhackl has been bouncing in and out of the lineup, scored 2 goals last night. Who would have thought? Almost got a third
Right.
there in the third
Yeah.
period. I could see it if definitely if Ladd is out for an extended period of time. Depending on who they play, I could see them bringing a kid up and saying, all right, we're gonna slot you in, we're gonna see what you can do, and maybe just as a reward for playing good down there, because these seem like the type of coaches that will use a call up as a reward to get them a taste, to get them to play even harder down there, and next time they get called up, they want to earn that spot for good.
Yeah. I definitely think, nobody's spots are guaranteed, in the lineup. I feel like if you're playing well, you're going to get ice time. And, obviously Kuhnhackl been taking advantage of his opportunities lately. For what that guy brought to the table going into the season, I didn't really have high expectations, but he's actually been one of our better players. Same thing with, Filppula. I looked at that move and I was like, I don't know about that. I was like, but I guess so. I'm like, if we want to get a little bit more center depth or whatever, but he's been playing incredible.
That line had ridiculous chemistry last night, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And surprisingly, and I'm totally okay with the way they're playing right now. I feel like the top 6 is kind of set. You have the 6 guys who are going to be in that top 6. Obviously, you're going to shuffle them around if they're not really working well. But he's kind of that kid who I feel like last year got a taste of it and kind of maybe took a little bit off his game, or kind of stepped back and maybe thought he had, kind of, I don't want to assume for him, but, maybe felt like he already had his spot kind of secured. And now he's kind of feeling the pressure of it. And, if you're not getting the results, obviously they're not going to keep you.
I thought about this a little bit today while I was at work, especially reading the question and reading some of the articles that have come out about the same thing. And it's fascinating to me about all the different aspects of personalities and physical traits and, the variations from season to season, especially in the way someone trains off season and the way that they their meals are and their nutrition and everything else. So obviously you have those variables that could come into play. Maybe he's trained to the point where he's a little stronger than he was last year, and it's affecting the way that he skates, down to the science of that. You never know.
Yeah.
But
gripping
again,
the stick a little tighter,
also we have a brand new coaching staff, and just like Brock Nelson, you obviously see the fruits of that relationship, and Bo is maybe, like you said, gripping his stick a little too tight, and maybe there was a little bit of nerves there with a brand new coaching staff and a general manager and everything, and
yeah, could be,
and not knowing what'll happen with him and his ice time. But he definitely has the skill. We saw that last year with that line, and I hope he can figure it out. I don't doubt that he can't, but maybe he needs to go down for a couple of games, and we're getting close to the holidays, and that's the time last year where he was sent down. I think it was only for like 5 or 6 games. It wasn't really a long time.
Yep.
I mean,
but he came back and he was fired up, and I feel like he kind of never looked back after that. So it's, maybe it might be worth it to send him down and say, hey, there's no pressure, just go out there and play, and bring up one of these kids who's lighting it up right now.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say my favorite player to watch. I was watching the World Junior tournament, and Bellows, man, that kid, he's got a shot that kid's got. I think he's the real deal. Would love to see him get an opportunity. I don't know if he's gonna get it first. That's the only thing. I feel like by default, Dal Cole and then maybe Hosang would get the call up prior to Bellows. But if he keeps putting the puck in the back of the net, you take whoever you can get.
And that kid definitely inherited his dad's shot. That's for sure.
It's incredible.
Now, we have one more question from Nightvine. And if Ladd, Zeker, or Martin are out tomorrow, does that warrant a call-up or two? Who would you guess it would be? Now, this pretty much goes for the last couple of minutes of our discussions. And I know Michael Fornabayo, the beat writer down at Bridgeport, said that as of the end of the game this morning, there was no news of any kind of moves whatsoever. I do think that Matt Martin could potentially go. I'm not sure. I know that Zeker was claimed that he was dinged up or however Trotz put it. I know Ladd is going to be out for sure. That looked like an ankle injury.
Yeah, that didn't look. That looked weird the way he kind of went down and just didn't look right. I feel like he's going to be out for a bit.
I always look at the way, I look at the reaction on a player's face, honestly, and the way that he went off the ice and just used his momentum to kind of get off on one leg. But I looked at his face and he didn't seem panicked. So it could be a strain. I don't really think it was a break or anything like that. But then again, we also saw Lee broke his leg and finished his shift and actually came back out for another one after that. So
that is true. Yeah.
But this could be an opportunity where they could slot somebody in, But then again, we also have Kunako playing well.
Yep.
So do they even really need anybody?
Yeah.
And then they also have Spiza and Hickey, and Hickey has played forward.
I was going to say, the secret winger of Hickey.
Obviously, this coaching staff hasn't used him in that way, but they have in the past, and I'm sure they're aware of it. But, there's so many different things that can happen. Who would you sit now at this point? And it is the Rangers, so maybe they have a bunch of kids in their lineup, so do you want to maybe give a kid an opportunity in a game like the Rangers, a big rivalry game like that where, you saw Komarov talking it up today and saying how excited he is to take part in this rivalry because it's such a good rivalry for hockey?
Yeah, I don't know. It's I feel like it's changed. You don't have it's not like the Rangers have Rupp and guys like that in their lineup right now. So I was going to say, do you put Ross the Boss in the lineup? But the way the Rangers are, and they're a younger, faster team now. It could be an opportunity, but I feel like they would have made a move today if they were going to do it. But then again, Bridgeport's not that far away, so they can always shuttle someone over on the ferry. I don't know. I feel like speed is going to be the name of the game tomorrow night, and I don't know.
If that's the case, I can definitely see Ross Johnson getting inserted into the lineup because every time they put him in, he winds up scoring a goal.
Yeah. Comes up in big moments.
And he, what? He's a profoundly good skater for the type of player that he is.
Yeah.
I've said this on numerous occasions.
Yeah, you could put I would say Johnson, Clutterbuck on the fourth line, and I would keep that third line of Kunakov, Komarov, and Filppula together.
Yeah, they look great.
Yeah.
All right, we're approaching the 50-minute mark of this episode, so we're gonna start to wrap it up here. And now, again, tell us a little bit about your coffee company. Where do you guys have a Facebook page? Tell us your social medias and everything like that.
So everything we do is online. So it's kingscoastcoffee.com. People ask us, do you have a store? Everything is sold online right now. We just moved into a warehouse, and we're working on setting up a tasting room where you guys can come and actually try the coffee and buy bags of coffee there. So that's in the works. We're looking to hopefully have that up and ready, after the holiday rush. And, but yeah, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. We're always posting about what we're doing. We got a lot of cool different things that we do. It's not just coffee. We're trying to create a culture around our brand, and we're really trying to tell a story, because for the most part, people they think coffee, it comes from the coffee pot. It's I don't know where it comes from. I never really thought to think about that, but the coffee industry is incredible. It's a fruit that grows on a tree that's harvested in season. It's very similar to wine, where the region, the elevation, the soil, all of that factors into the flavor that comes through on the coffee bean when you roast it. It's a seed from the fruit that it gets dried, fermented, and then they package it up. That gets shipped in. It comes in. It's a raw product, and then we put a roast on it, and then you get this awesome beverage that has come so far from like just one little seed, to a cup of coffee. So we're trying to tell these stories, and what we do is we buy all organic and fair trade certified coffee, and it's really just, for us, it's about presenting a really great cup of coffee that's ethically sourced, and we strive to have it be the best cup of coffee you're ever going to drink. That's a personal mission of mine from being a chef and then transitioning into the coffee industry. I wanted the best possible ingredients, and that's what we do. We offer a couple different blends of different beans from all around the world. We also do single origins. So if you're looking for a specific bean, we have Ethiopia, Sumatra. We have some amazing coffees coming in from Costa Rica right now, where we're dealing with farmers who are doing some really incredible stuff down there with their aging process on the beans. We have one we're about to release. It's called the Costa Rica Black Honey. And what they do is they actually sun dry the coffee cherries, and then when it gets roasted, it gets this really cool caramelization on it. So you get this really amazing, flavorful cup of coffee. There's like natural cherry notes that come through, and people are always asking like, "Oh wow, do you guys flavor this?" It's like, no, it's actually the coffee fruit itself that has all this natural flavor. So it's pretty wild. And then we for the holiday season, when it's available, we do organic hot cocoa mix, which is one of our top selling seasonal items. It's going to be available on Black Friday. We're going to launch that probably Thursday night going into Friday. It sells out crazy quick. People love this stuff. It's just, we're doing a lot of fun stuff. So check us out online. It's kingscoastcoffee.com. We have a promo code. If you are an Islander and you're living on Long Island, if you use locals only, it will ship for free to Long Island. And then that's pretty much it. It's like I said, it's a labor of love. It's been like a wild ride. We're just over a year into the business, and for us, the sky's the limit. And we're hoping by the end of this coming year to at least have one or two possibly physical locations, with the opportunity for even more. So it's been absolutely nuts.
Well, you're very passionate about it. It definitely comes through in the way that you speak about coffee, the way that you speak about hockey even. So
Yeah.
I'm all about entrepreneurship and small business and small batch stuff, and especially Long Island and New York made things. So I'm 100% on board. Anything I can do for you in the future, don't hesitate to ask. You want to come on again and talk hockey? You're welcome back anytime. You've got a great radio voice.
Thank you.
So, in closing, this has been the Isles Faithful podcast. You've been listening to Wayne.
Yeah, just Wayne.
Cifarella?
Caffarella.
Caffarella? There you go.
Yeah.
Caffarella. I'll probably edit that out.
Wayne from King's Coast.
Wayne. Yeah, my boy Wayne from King's Coast. All right, so why don't you give us your socials one more time?
Sure. It's my personal is Chef Wayne Face at Twitter and Instagram, and then it's kingscoastcoffee.com. We are at Kings_Coast on Twitter, and then it's Kings Coast Coffee on Instagram as well. Follow us on that if you want to check us out and see what we're up to and posting, and we're always doing new stuff and trying to post some educational material on coffee. So
yeah, you sent me a great picture yesterday of you roasting a fresh batch, and it made me really jealous. And my wife said, you need to get some coffee. That looks
Well,
amazing.
it's shipped out today, so it should be getting you probably tomorrow.
Nice. She'll be
Yep.
happy. I'll let her know as soon as we're done here. But yeah, so follow Wayne and all his coffee greatness on Twitter, and obviously give him some Islanders love. He's a great guy, and we're going to have him back. All right, so follow me on Twitter at IslesBlogger. Follow the show at Faithful Isles. You know the Instagram. You know the Facebook page. Do us a favor, give us a like and a review on iTunes. It would help the show out, get us more publicity and all that stuff. So Wayne, thanks for joining us this week, and we'll speak to you soon. And look forward to episode 15. Look out for all the announcements this week. And let's go Islanders. Let's beat those Rangers.
All right. Thanks for having me.
No problem.